Mr. Commissioner. Judah Harrison for the record, representing the Conservation Coalition, which is a group of 6 not-for-profits and 1 individual concerned with the resource that is wild salmon. Dr. Jones, I'd like to pick up with where Mr. McDade was going. If you can put Exhibit 218 on the screen, please. 2118, thank you. And if you could turn to page 12 of this document, please. Maybe scroll up to the email that attached these documents, please. Maybe 11. Dr. Jones, this is the one, thank you. Dr. Jones, am I correct that you said that reagent contamination is no longer a potential problem with the Molly Kibenge samples? Was this possibility eliminated from your mind?
You're asking me whether I concluded that reagent contamination was ruled out as a possibility. We didn't ever rule it out as a possibility of the work that she conducted at PBS, although it didn't always seem to be the case. With the work that Professor Kibenge in Charlottetown, Fred Kibenge in Charlottetown sent back to us, there was some indication that that may have been a possibility, and we've seen nothing to change that opinion based on the Segment 7 work.
So, am I correct that the date of this email is November 5th, 2003?
That's what it says here.
Can we scroll down, please, to page 20? Yes. And maybe 19. Up above it. It's a similar email, and the date should be November 12th. It's documents, page 19. Yes. Thank you. 21. Would you agree with me, Dr. Jones, that this email was sent by Dr. Kibenge on November 10th, 2003, i.e. 5 days later, where the reagent contamination claim arose?
This is November the 10th. Yes.
So can we go down 2 more pages, please? He reported very similar information to you as what was attached to the November 5th email. Is that correct? Continue. That's the one.
Yes, this is part of the submission of information back to our lab.
So, in your evidence, did Dr. Kibenge rule out the possibility of reagent contamination in the original samples that he studied?
This I understood to be a separate analysis. This was an analysis of the Segment 8 sequences, and that in reference to the Segment 8 sequences, he appears to rule out the possibility of contamination.
Okay, well, I will leave it there, thank you. Dr. Jones, to the best of your knowledge, has there been any additional sampling by DFO or CFIA of Cultus Lake Sockeye salmon? And has there specifically been any testing for ISA of Cultus Lake Sockeye salmon since 2004?
Not to my knowledge. But, well, I can only qualify that further by saying that I'm not advised always of exactly what samples are being processed by the virology program.
And am I correct that Molly Kibenge found 100% of the samples of Cultus Lake Sockeye ISA positive? Or that there was an initial detection, whatever we don't want to get caught up in semantics, but was there an initial detection of a positive finding of ISA in 100% of the Cultus Lake Sockeye samples she tested?
Her finding was that out of 64 tissue samples she tested from Cultus Lake Sockeye, all 64 of those gave a positive result in her PCR reaction.
So I understand that you were never able to repeat the results of using those same samples, but have you ever gone and obtained additional Cultus Lake Sockeye samples and done any additional testing since that time?
The part of that analysis was to try to understand the reliability of those 64 positive tests, and the evidence that was presented that she found was that this was not ISA based on the sequence information. The answer to your question is no, I have not come back I haven't, and I'm not sure whether or not the virology program, the PBS, or whether other agencies have looked at Cultus.
Have you ever suggested to anyone that they do additional sampling and testing of ISA, Cultus Lake Sockeye salmon?
No, I have not.
Okay, I'd like to move on to the draft surveillance plan. And this is Exhibit 2112 right now. Dr. Claudens, am I correct that you were among the primary authors of this draft surveillance plan?
No, I was not a primary author, but I did review. I am reviewing several versions.
And are you familiar with the draft surveillance plan as is up on the screen right now?
If you could scroll down a little bit, I might be able to.
November 2011. It's on the first page.
Yes, I've provided some commentary on this surveillance plan, but I haven't finished my commentary on this plan.
Dr. Stevens, are you familiar with the draft surveillance plan?
Just Mr. Stevens, and yes, I am.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. Dr. Claudens, am I correct that this plan was conceived and developed following the most recent detections of ISA? And again, I don't want to get caught up in semantics, but potential positive detections. Was this surveillance plan drafted after that?
Yes, it was. It was part of the disease response.
Thank you. Do you agree with me that members of the public generally, and specifically I can point to Rick Rutledge and Dr. Alexander Morton, do you agree that these two persons were absolutely integral to bringing to light the fact of the potential of ISA in BC?
Well, I'm not going to comment on that. Part of the reason we're doing this plan is basically to satisfy our countries that we trade with. They want to know the health status of finfish in BC.
So I understand that our trade partners want to know whether ISA is in BC. Do you, in your view, does the public have a right to know whether ISA is present in BC?
Yes, I do, and they will know once it's been confirmed.
Thank you. So, do you envision this plan and the test results to be public and transparent, totally?
Yes, I do. I believe there's some indication of that if you look at the communications section. But certainly, this is a draft plan, and we do report our surveillance results to the public.
So, can we go to some specific aspects of this plan? And I would suggest that nowhere in this plan does it say that it will be given to the public. But I'd like to go to some specific parts and ask for comments on this. First of all, page 6, if we can go to page 6, and I'm only going to use the actual numbers, not the PDF numbers. If you can, the big paragraph, third paragraph, I guess fourth paragraph down, the large paragraph, I don't know what that is. So, the second last sentence reads, there is no evidence to support that ISA and IPNV occur in either wild or cultured salmon in BC.
Yes.
Given what the evidence we've heard to date, is that a true statement?
I believe it is. We've had preliminary test results. We've identified that there's issues with the test. It is not perfect. There is no evidence to support that at this time.
So there is no evidence to support that ISA is occurring in either wild or cultured salmon in BC?
Yes.
Thank you. If we go to page, I think we're on page 6, so the very top paragraph on this page, it says, the CFIA proposes to undertake the development and subsequently the implementation of the proposed plan in partnership with DFO and via a series of consultation with industry, provincial stakeholders, and rights holders. Mr. Stevens and Dr. Clouden, will this include not-for-profit groups in BC? Are we part of provincial stakeholders?
Well, here it would be, I'm not sure exactly what the wording is. If they need to be part of the consultation, I don't see why not. And we can adjust the wording to reflect
You weren't trying
that.
to exclude them, but
No.
Thank you for that. I'd like to ask, picking up on this, going back to the statement, that there is no evidence of ISA in BC or IPNV in BC in either wild or cultured fish. My question to you is, well, first of all, am I correct that this draft surveillance plan will look at 3 diseases, ISA, IHN, and IPN, or ISAV, IHNV, and IPNV?
Yes, initially that's what we're proposing. Of course, that's open to commentary as well.
My question to you is, how did you come to these 3 diseases? And particularly, I'd like to ask you with respect to IPNV, considering it's never been found in BC in any wild or cultured fish, why is it part of the draft surveillance plan?
As I mentioned before, countries are asking us to demonstrate freedom, and from historical evidence, or at least from anecdotal evidence, and the extensive testing that's been done to date, or at least the testing that's been done to date, there doesn't appear to be IPNV. However, if we're going to, because the province isn't closed to trade, and because we haven't tested everything, we will be putting in a surveillance plan to continue making the claim of disease freedom for IPN. It may be that we find it eventually, and then we won't be able to make that claim.
Dr. Jones, Dr. Wright, are there any additional diseases that you can think of that should be part of this surveillance plan? Do you feel that it's sufficient to only look at these 3? Are these the 3 most important?
I would say that I'm not the expert. You should be asking. I just make sure that whatever's on that list that's put there by our partners that I can test for accurately.
Dr. Jones, do you have any comments on whether these or other diseases should be part of the surveillance plan?
Well, I agree that these 3 viruses are important, and that based on the need to demonstrate presence or absence of infection with them, that they should form the basis of a surveillance program. But that as new information becomes available, that perhaps this list will be lengthened.
What about, do you believe that novel diseases are a potential threat to both cultured and wild salmon in BC?
With respect to that, we keep an eye on what's happening globally in terms of infectious diseases in salmon. In addition, OIE member countries bring up issues either in the regional meetings or in the annual general meeting at the OIE. There's also conversations we have with our training partners about what diseases people are finding and may be important. And if we need to test for those diseases, they will be added to the scope.
So, theoretically, if there was a novel strain of ISA in BC, would you have to develop a surveillance strategy to actually look for that novel disease? That novel strain, excuse me?
I'm probably going to defer to Peter on this, but right now, my understanding is that the PCR for segment 8 should be able to detect every known strain of ISAV. Of course, if a new one is detected, it'll be checked to see if it can pick it up. I think it would be very unusual that there would be a new strain of ISAV with a completely different segment 8. The reason they choose that is because it's the most conserved element of the ISAV virus and should pick up the strains. But of course, we're always checking and making sure that will happen.
So, Dr. Clemens, in your understanding, is there a significant chance or significant potential that we have a mutated novel strain of ISA in BC? Is there a significant likelihood, a potential likelihood?
I would say the likelihood right now is low.
There's a low likelihood, but there is some likelihood.
Yes.
In your view, is it possible that the only reason DFO and CFIA have not been able to confirm this, or the primary reason, is as a result of the assay or primer used at DFO Moncton?
It would be, oh, sorry.
Oh, it's just Dr. Wright, and I'll let you answer and then give it to him, please.
I think I've already answered that the likelihood would be very low.
So, in your view, there was no chance that that is the reason that we're not detecting, that DFO is not detecting it in Moncton, or it's very low likelihood?
Very low likelihood.
Very low likelihood.
We've done comparisons. Well, as Dr. Cotton said, segment 8 is the one that's being, the PCR is identifying this region for two reasons. One is it's very highly conserved amongst the known ISA viruses that are out there. It doesn't discriminate between either European or North American strains. It picks them all up, and that's why you see on some of these designations they call it unique, because that's universal. So it is highly conserved, and it is also one that during infection there tends to be more copies of this because the viral production of protein, this particular protein is much higher. So you've got two things working for you with segment 8. And we have shown that using the same primers and probes, or the different primers and probes, the snow versus the ones that are being used in BC and the ones that are being used by ourselves, should be able to pick up all known strains of the virus. When you talk about novel strains, there may be a novel strain. It may be a very old strain. We don't know. It's not one that was sent up red flags because there's apparent disease outbreaks with it. And as I've said before, you can have viruses circulating out there at very low levels that may never ever cause a disease. So the determination will have to be made, even if there is a virus out there, whether it's something that needs to be regulated or not, or just put on a watch list. It's hard to regulate something that does not cause any disease.
Dr. Clemens, would the use of multiple primers or assays enhance confidence in the testing results?
That's a really good question. I haven't seen a paper that addresses that at all. Like I said, the segment 8 is the highly conserved segment in ISAV. Our current understanding, the variants that we do see in the current understanding is more segment 6 and more segment 5. Whether there's other variants or that can cause such a change in segment 8, really we need to get a good geneticist who's involved or who knows about mutations and see what even the possibility is of doing that.
Can I have Conservation Coalition document tab 21 on the screen, please? Dr. Clemens, are you familiar with the OIE Aquatic Animal Health Code?
Yes, I've seen it. I haven't memorized it.
Well,
sorry.
I don't believe in the world. I think I'm scared. But if we could turn to page 3 of this, please. I'd like to take you to the second last paragraph on this page. And I'll just read this for the record. Methodologies for the analysis of surveillance data should be flexible to deal with complexity in real-life situations. No single method is applicable in all cases. Different methodologies may be needed to accommodate the relevant pathogens, varying productions and surveillance systems and types and qualities, and amount of data. Dr. Cloudens, in your view, is it fair to say that multiple methodologies will enhance confidence of surveillance testing regimes?
Yeah, this particular chapter doesn't just deal with test methods. It talks about methodologies you can use to analyze the data to provide interpretation of test results as well. Like I said, the test is not perfect, and you need to be able to interpret those test results. And I agree, as scientific information becomes available, we need to incorporate that into our surveillance plans. So, for example, of what we currently know about ISAv, we will not just be testing kidney, we will also be testing gills because of the possible, the gills may be a better location for identifying the non-pathogenic variant, or strain, I should say, if that truly exists. And so we are making modifications based on current knowledge. Now, whether we have to do multiple PCR assays, that actually would be better addressed as an epidemiological investigation research project.
I've been told I only have 3 minutes left, so I'm going to go really quickly here. Dr. Cloudens, are you familiar with the wild salmon policy?
That is put out by
Department of Fisheries and Oceans.
no, I am not.
Mr. Stevens, are you familiar with the wild salmon policy?
I've just heard mention of it, but I'm not aware of it in any details at all.
So is it fair to say that conservation units of Fraser sockeye salmon and the status of conservation sockeye units was not at all considered in the development of the draft surveillance plan?
I'd like to answer that. As I mentioned, I believe on Friday, when I asked about the version of the surveillance document, Dr. Stuart Johnson is providing coordinating input into the document. I have no idea if this particular version is incorporating that information or other information yet, because I haven't had a chance to do that. But we are endeavoring to gather information from all parts of DFO to provide input into this document. And as you indicated, it is a draft.
Well, may I suggest that you look at the wild salmon policy and the work of conservation units of Fraser sockeye salmon as that comes to the much work around this?
And I will pass that on to Dr. Bruno, who's writing up the surveillance plan.
Thank you. Given my lack of time, I'm only going to go one more area. Dr. Cloudens, can you give me an approximation of the number of Fraser River sockeye salmon that will be sampled in 1 year, given your draft plan? How many are we talking about here?
I would have to look at the table that's been provided so far.
Okay, so can we go to page 20, which is the table that is provided so far? Page 20 of the actual document. Oh, sorry, I would like to go back to the draft surveillance plan, which is Exhibit 2112. Very last, on the bottom of page 20, this is a chart that sets out which sockeye salmon will be sampled in the first 2 years. Am I correct about that? This surveillance plan is the entirety of DFO and CFIA's response for 2 years?
Like I said, this is a draft plan. This is an initial, an initial estimate of what we need to do for sampling. It is still open to commentary. So my understanding is this is proposed for each of 2 years, but the plan will be reviewed after the first year. Well, I mean, we haven't come up with a final plan yet, number one, so we need input there. But it will be reviewed after the first year to see if that needs to change in terms of our sampling frame.
Thank you. Is anyone here very familiar with where Fulton River Spawning Creek Channel is, where Pinkett Creek Spawning Channel is, where Medina Spawning Channel are These are 3 of the 4 areas that DFO or CFIA will sample Fraser Sockeye. Anybody on the panel? Dr. Jones? I'll ask my direct question. Is it fair that these are in the Skeena watershed and not on the Fraser River? All 3?
I believe that Weaver Creek is on the Fraser River as well.
Yes, the Weaver Creek is on the Fraser River, and I haven't gone there yet. So, am I correct, Dr. Clemens, that of the 4 areas that you will be sampling sockeye salmon, only 1 is Fraser River sockeye salmon?
That is what's currently being proposed. That may not be correct.
So, am I correct that this, for the entire year, the entirety of your surveillance plan sees collection and sampling of 88 Fraser River sockeye salmon on one single day in one single area, and that's 88 fish?
It doesn't speak to those will be collected all on one single day. So that may not be correct because the time frame is indicated February to May. There are assumptions on the sampling frame in terms of what the population is of sockeye salmon. Currently I believe I don't know how many sockeye salmon populations are being considered, but I think they're basically considered 1 because of the mixing out of the Pacific Ocean.
I'll have to leave it there as a minute, but I need to ask one more question. Dr. Jones, given your expert in virology, is the surveillance plan adequate to obtain a confident answer of whether or not there is ISAv in Fraser River sockeye salmon?
Well, I'm an expert in parasitology. I'm not an expert in virology. I'm seeing this for the first time. I think I would like to look at it more thoroughly, but it's always very difficult to know exactly what an optimal number is in a surveillance program, given that uncertainty is
sufficient.
Probably not for one site.
Thank you.
Would you like to have this document? 2134.
Mr. Commissioner, I did advise before that my understanding is that the Adena indeed would be part of the Fraser watershed. I thought Dr. Jones was trying to indeed pick up on that, and his mic wasn't firing. I don't know if he was looking to pick up on that point, or just out of fairness to the witness, if he was, this is a chance to do that. Otherwise, we move into counsel for areas D and B with 25 minutes. If I might just see if Dr. Jones did wish to make a point there.
No, I have no further comments.
All right. Mr. Rosenblum, 25 minutes. Thank you.